Hello, welcome to my presentation on addressing challenging behaviors in childhood education. Before discussing the theories covered in this course and recent research, I would like to provide some background information on the topic. In recent years, teachers have been reporting increasing numbers of children with challenging behaviors. They report increased frustration with the effects of the behaviors on the routines of the classroom. It is best to address these behaviors in younger children if possible. Children can be seen as new to the world and still learning manners, rules, norms, and ethics. They are also learning to communicate with others and understand others. Therefore, they can be guided to understand things about the world and its contents. If taught at an early age, lessons may be more rooted in children. Some externalizing problems that children may experience are characterized by patterns of aggressive, defiant, disruptive, and hyperactive behavior. These behaviors may result in poor academic achievement and higher rates of grade retention, school dropout, delinquency, and substance use. Internalizing problems refer to negative states of inner emotional well-being, such as feeling anxious, fearful, sad, or depressed. These feelings are associated with increased feelings of loneliness, less affinity for school, and greater risk for suicidal ideation. Many theorists that we have covered throughout the course have provided recommendations for how to address children in a school setting. The first theorist I will cover who addressed this topic is Giselle in his maturational theory. He believed that teachers should not think exclusively in terms of cultural goals, but rather recognize that children are less precise at one age than another. Therefore, developmentally minded teachers will not force children to learn in a way that counteracts their nature. Teachers should gear their work to the individual child's state of readiness and their special abilities. He believed that most schools overemphasize uniform achievement standards, and the task of schools is to help children develop their personalities by letting the children guide the teacher through this process. The next theorist who touched on education is Kohlberg in his stages of moral development. His implications for teaching regarded moral development, and he believed that by children simply listening to an adult's moral judgment, they would learn very little. Instead, he proposed leading group discussions in educational settings so that children can grapple with moral issues. The discussion should be left mostly to the children so they can counter views that stimulate their thinking in order to formulate better arguments. The next theorist is Bandura, whose social learning theory taught about the importance of models in education. Teachers often overlook how influential their modeling can be. Whenever a child is exhibiting a distressing behavior, teachers should ask themselves whether they have been unintentionally modeling the behavior. Modeling can take form in behavior modeling by performing an action and verbally through instructions or commands. He also touched on self-efficacy and that standard school practices such as ranking and competitive grading may make children feel inadequate. Therefore, children should work cooperatively and judge their work according to individual progress. And the last theorist I will touch on in this slide is Freud and his psychoanalytic theory. Freud believed that discipline in schools is usually excessive as it can make children feel ashamed and guilty about their natural functions. Teachers should refrain from automatically disciplining unwanted behavior and instead try to understand the emotional reasons behind the behavior. Although the teacher may not be able to correct all of these problems, Freud believed that this level of understanding from teachers will benefit the children. The theorist we learned about in this course that provided the most guidance on education is Maria Montessori. She created the Montessori schools. In these schools, the goal is the teacher giving the child opportunities for independent mastery. They do not try to instruct or direct the child, and the materials found in these schools correspond to the children's inner needs. If provided with these materials, children will work enthusiastically on them without adult supervision. Montessori formulated this environment by observing children's behavior with respect to various materials. She found through observation that the children told her which materials were most valuable to them. From here, the children were able to work with concentration over and over again until they had achieved an inner peace. Montessori believes that through this work, children were achieving their true or normal state, which is a process she called normalization. A specific concept in Montessori schooling is free choice, where the teacher has faith that children will freely choose tasks that meet their inner needs at that moment. Another concept is gradual preparation, which says that children cannot learn many skills at once, so she develops materials that would enable children to learn these skills in steps. The next concept is reading and writing, which is best learned during the general sensitivity period for language. Writing can be introduced through a series of separate preparatory exercises, and from there, writing paves the way for reading. Another concept is nature and education, where Montessori believes that children will benefit from rich contact with nature outdoors. A final concept of Montessori schooling is fantasy and creativity, where Montessori believes that fantasy is a product of a mind that's lost its tie to reality, and she believes it's the teacher's job to help children overcome their tendencies towards fantasy. In her educational philosophy, Montessori also addressed misbehavior. Although Montessori believes in avoiding expectations put on children, she believed that more in relation to intellectual work than moral misconduct. She does not believe that children can abuse the materials in school or their classmates. In the Montessori school, children usually develop natural respect for the materials and others. Even if a child bothers another who is concentrated on their work, the child can usually respect others' wishes to be left alone. However, there are times where the teacher must intervene. Montessori believed the teacher should respond by isolating the child for a moment. Therefore, the child will be able to see the value of the work for others and see what they are missing. From there, the child should begin constructive work without any further prompting. Traditionally, teachers believe they need to gain control over their class, but Montessori has no interest in that obedience. She believed that real discipline comes from within the child, not from threats or rewards. And her overall views on misbehavior is that it comes from the child being unfulfilled in their work. Therefore, teachers should observe each child more closely to introduce materials that will meet their inner developmental needs. Moving on to modern research interventions, the first intervention I will cover is called the Teaching Pyramid Model for Promoting Social Emotional Development and Addressing Challenging Behavior. The goals of this model are to support children's success in classrooms, promote children's social emotional development, and address and prevent challenging behaviors. This is based off the idea that many challenging behaviors in classrooms can be prevented by designing environments that promote children's engagement, helping children learn what to do, and teaching children new social skills and emotional competencies. The pyramid includes universal strategies, secondary strategies for children who are at risk and need more individualized teaching, and also tertiary strategies for children whose behaviors are persistent, even when other models of the pyramid are in place. The first level of the teaching pyramid is developing nurturing and responsive relationships, which is universal. Within these strategies, the goal is for teachers to have a positive, supportive interaction with every child in their classroom each day, which may include guiding a child through a social problem or engaging in a conversation about the child's interests. For children with challenging behaviors, these interactions should focus more on positives than negatives. Meaningful relationships between teachers and families is also important for effective education. These relationships can provide context for a child's behavior by learning about the family beliefs, values, and cultural practices, and teachers can work with families to identify helpful strategies and address challenging behaviors if there is a need by seeking their input and suggestions. The next level of the teaching pyramid is designing social and physical environments to support children's social emotional development and prevent challenging behavior, which is also universal. If a child feels safe and supported, knows what to do, when to do it, and what is expected of them, then they are less likely to engage in challenging behaviors. This can be achieved by structuring routines, transitions, and activities in the classroom. The three components of a well-planned schedule are having a consistent schedule so children can anticipate what comes next, minimizing transitions where children are left waiting with nothing to do, and teaching classroom routines and expectations. Engagement is also key to preventing challenging behaviors, so structuring activities that all children can participate in is important. The next level of the teaching pyramid is teaching social skills and promoting educational competencies, which is secondary. Important social emotional skills include friendship skills, emotional literacy, social problem solving, and anger management. Some children engage in challenging behavior because they do not have the skills to communicate their needs in a more appropriate way, and they require more intentional teaching than other children. Adult attention and feedback can be used to guide children through social problems by modeling appropriate ways to communicate emotions, demonstrating strategies for interacting with peers, and confirming to children that their behavior is appropriate. Intentional teaching can be done by teaching the skill or concept, talking about examples and non-examples of the target skills, supporting children's use of the skill, and reviewing the children's use of the skill. And the final level of the teaching pyramid is designing individualized interventions for children with ongoing challenging behavior, which is tertiary. These strategies are for children whose behavior is not responsive to the prevention efforts. This plan is ideally developed by a team, which may include the child's family, teaching staff, and behavior support professionals. The first step is to conduct a functional assessment to find the purpose of behavior in order to develop appropriate strategies. From there, a behavior support plan will be developed that focuses on preventing challenging behavior, teaching new skills, and responding to the behavior in a way that supports the use of the new skills rather than the challenging behavior. The next modern intervention I will discuss is social emotional learning. Social emotional learning can be taught in schools to reduce the prevalence and impact of emotional and behavioral problems among children. It is linked to improvements in mental and emotional well-being and quality of life, and a decrease in delinquent or criminal behavior and suicidal ideation. The goal of social emotional learning is to acquire social and emotional competencies, both intrapersonal and interpersonal, that are needed to function in the social world. These competencies include learning and applying the knowledge, attitude, and skills needed to recognize and manage emotions, setting and achieving goals, feeling and showing empathy for others, establishing and maintaining healthy relationships, making responsible decisions, and avoiding negative behaviors. Social emotional learning programs incorporate multiple components to effect positive changes at the individual, peer, classroom, and school levels, and across home, school, and communities. This study focused specifically on group processes of social emotional learning due to the co-occurring relationship between emotional and behavioral difficulties and poor interpersonal relationships. Within a group, assimilation processes will encourage group members to become similar by acting in ways that align with group norms, and differentiation processes will allow individuals to engage in social comparisons with other group members to establish their position within the social hierarchy. The processes will influence identity development as individuals try to find their place within the group and act in accordance with group norms to avoid exclusion. Schools are a natural context where these group processes can occur, and teachers can influence the group processes by creating safe, inclusive learning environments. In terms of social experiences, children with externalizing problems may behave in ways that interfere with peer relationships. They experience greater peer rejection and are more likely to be involved in bullying. Children with internalizing problems tend to lack social status and are more likely to experience peer exclusion. To improve peer relationships through social emotional learning, interventions should target social dynamics that support problem behavior, account for the impact of social context on behavior, and provide opportunities for positive social interactions. Next, I will discuss specific strategies teachers can use to positively influence the social dynamics of classroom environments. The first is the development of individual student skills and relationships. Supportive relationships with teachers are fundamental, and strategies to build this relationship are organization, positive behavior management, student involvement in decision-making, and positive feedback to students about their social skills. The next strategy is addressing peer group and classroom dynamics. Group norms guide an individual's actions, especially in those with deviant behaviors. Therefore, teachers need to address problematic group norms by using strategies that direct students towards productive academic and social behaviors. Teachers should also promote values of inclusiveness and acceptance of differences in areas such as culture, gender, and sexuality. Finally, teachers must understand the social dynamics of their class to promote positive peer relationships. From here, teachers can engage students in learning activities that enhance positive interactions and conflict-solving skills. The final strategy is social emotional learning for the school and community. The school climate is the values, relationships, practices, and structures that contribute to a student's experiences at school, and aspects of a school climate can be addressed through social emotional learning. Homeschool partnerships are also an essential component. Programs that promote homeschool collaboration can improve academic performance and school-related behavior and lead to better parent-teacher communication, having shared goals and mutual feelings of support. Community settings, functioning, and collaboration with schools is also essential for social emotional learning. Service learning focuses on understanding community needs and allows students to experience empathy, and it has been associated with positive academic and social emotional outcomes. The final modern intervention I will discuss is rewards and discipline. In education, the reward method is used as a motivation so that children can be disciplined in the classroom. Motivation is the basic support that moves a person to behave. Researchers wanted to examine how to improve children's discipline through the application of rewards. A reward is a response to someone's behavior which one day will repeat itself and increase. In education, rewards are used to educate children so that they feel happy, so that they maintain a good attitude, and that they will be more enthusiastic in carrying out tasks. Rewards can be done verbally or non-verbally. They are given to anyone who can meet expectations. They can also be seen as a form of appreciation from a teacher. The purpose of giving rewards is to facilitate learning activities in the classroom, generate and maintain children's motivation, control and change disruptive behavior towards learning, and they may lead to a good way of thinking. The first type of reward is praise, which can be done in the form of words or signs. The next type is respect, which can be done in the form of coronation, such as children who are being honored, being announced and standing in front of their friends, or in the form of giving children the power to do something. The next type of reward is gifts, which would be material items, and the final type of rewards is signs of appreciation, which is a symbolic reward such as certificates or letters of service. The benefits of giving rewards may include increasing children's attention, generating their motivation, making it easier for them to learn, encouraging productive behavior in children, strengthening their feelings that they have done something right, and causing a sense of happiness. The terms of giving rewards for teachers to consider are understanding the character of the student and how to treat them, not causing jealousy or envy for other children, being frugal with giving rewards, and not giving the reward as a promise. Now we will focus on discipline. Discipline is defined as an exercise to control oneself, character, and circumstances in an efficient manner. Discipline education that is built from an early age will encourage children to obey rules that are applied in the family, school, or community environment on the basis of their own desires. Children are disciplined to behave according to the rules or norms that apply in society. The first element of discipline is regulations, which are patterns set for behavior. The goal is to provide children with approved behavioral guidelines and regulations to help them avoid unwanted behavior. The next element is habits, which include both traditional and modern habits. And the final element of discipline is punishment, which is the consequences of wrong actions. Getting punished is motivation to avoid actions that are not right, and it allows children to properly consider the actions that they take. The benefits of discipline are that it meets certain needs, such as giving children a sense of security by telling them what they can and cannot do, allowing children to live based on standard approval by societal norms, and learning to behave in a way that will bring praise as a sign of affection and acceptance. Discipline that is appropriate to a child's development has a function of ego-boosting motivation and helps children develop a conscious in decision-making and behavioral control. Finally, strategies in creating discipline for the teacher to follow. The first strategy is acting as a model for children by modeling how to speak and behave. The next strategy is applying rules and regulations that are flexible, comfortable, and do not make the students feel pressured during the learning process. Adjusting the rules to the psychology and development of the child is also important. Some final strategies include involving students in making the rules and regulations, establishing a good social relationship with the students, treating parents of students as partners, organizing and creating a good classroom environment, and giving rewards to students who behave well. The developmental questions that I aim to address are: which methods are the best for addressing challenging behavior in childhood education? Also, I would like to analyze aspects of these theories from a cross-cultural development perspective. To give some perspectives on rewards and punishment, we will start with Montessori, who believes that typical teachers rely heavily on external rewards and punishment because their children lack enthusiasm for the things that they are asked to learn about. When teachers do this, children become so concerned with external evaluations that they cannot concentrate on their work. When they have this pressure on them, children may come to dislike school and the learning process. She also believes that external evaluations strip children of their independence, as they will look to the teacher to know what they should do and say. Montessori thinks that the goal of rewards and punishments are to make the child submissive. Therefore, she says they have no place in the Montessori classroom. Instead, Montessori believes children will work out of an inherent drive to perfect their capacities. She does agree that children need to learn from their errors, but for this, she developed materials with a built-in control of error. Skinner also addressed reinforcement and punishment in his operant conditioning learning theory. He believed that human behavior can be controlled by reinforcing stimuli. Reinforcement means to strengthen a response. Positive reinforcements add positive consequences. There are primary reinforcers such as food and conditioned reinforcers such as an adult's smile, praise, or attention. There are also negative reinforcements which remove unpleasant stimuli. To establish desired responses, reinforcement should be done promptly. Behavior is also subject to extinction. Skinner believed that children do things just to get attention, and these undesirable behaviors, such as crying, can be extinguished. Skinner also spoke on punishment, which attempts to eliminate behavior. He did feel that punishment is the most common technique of control, but suggested that it does not always work. He found that punishment did not eliminate the response any faster than extinction, and that punishment can produce unwanted side effects. A child who is punished in school may become torn between working and avoiding work because they are fearing the consequences. Overall, Skinner suggested that combining extinction for undesirable behavior with positive reinforcement for desirable behavior. Now I will examine some of the educational theories with cross-cultural development theories. Bronfenbrenner's ecological model is the idea that human development is an interactive process where humans create the environments they live in, and these help shape their development. The model looks at behavior and development as a shared function of the individual in their environment. An example in this context is a child being influenced by their teacher, school, and peers, but also influencing them. This model consists of 4 nested systems, which are the microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, and macrosystem. There are many ways in which the teaching pyramid model can be applied to the ecological model. The aspects of the teaching pyramid model will mostly fall into the microsystem and mesosystem. The microsystem is the layer of the ecological model that is closest to a child, that they have direct contact with. In this case of the teaching pyramid, the first level, which is developing, nurturing, and responsive relationships, And the second level, which is designing social and physical environments to support children's social emotional development and prevent challenging behavior, would both be in the microsystem. The first level refers to a child's relationship with their teacher. The goal for the teacher is to have a meaningful interaction with the child each day, which would make the teacher a prominent figure in the child's life. The second level of the teaching pyramid would also be in the child's microsystem, as it refers to the classroom setting. The physical environment can affect behavior, including factors such as crowding and types of toys available. The goal of the teaching pyramid is to create a safe and supportive classroom environment. The ecological model may also apply to the fourth level of the teaching pyramid model, which is designing individualized interventions for children with ongoing challenging behavior. This level would be in the child's mesosystem, which is the connection between structures in the microsystem. Bronfenbrenner recognized that individual microsystems are not independent, but they are connected and influence each other. The mesosystem ties together information, knowledge, and attitudes from one setting that helps shape behavior and development in another setting. That is what's happening in the final level of the teaching pyramid model, where a team of the child's family, teaching staff, and other support professionals are sharing information to develop a plan for the child. The relationship between the teacher and family is also important, as the teacher can learn information in the child's macro system, which includes the custom and values of the child's culture. The connection between social emotional learning and the ecological model primarily exists within the microsystem and mesosystem as well. The specific study on social emotional learning that was discussed focuses on group processes that occur in the school context. These group processes depend on supporting peer relationships and relationships with teachers, both of which would be in the child's microsystem. The educational setting in which the group processes occur would also be in the microsystem. The goal of social emotional learning programs is to effect positive changes at the individual, peer, classroom, and school levels across homeschool and communities. The connection of these components of the child's life is very much connected to the basis of the ecological model. Specifically, homeschool partnerships are essential to social emotional learning. This partnership would be in the mesosystem. Another partnership that would be in the mesosystem is the connection between community settings and schools. The community settings themselves, though, would be in the child's exosystem, which is the social settings beyond the child's immediate environment. Super and Harkness's developmental niche theory is the idea that each individual child has a certain temperament and dispositions which interact with other characteristics to create the cultural world that the child will inhabit. There are three components of the developmental niche, which are the physical and social settings of daily life, culturally regulated customs of childcare and child rearing practices, and the psychology of the caregivers. In looking at the teaching pyramid model, the first two levels of this model would fall into the first component of the developmental niche, which is the physical and social settings of daily life. The first level involves a child's meaningful relationship with their teacher. The first component of the developmental niche theory includes the kind of company a child keeps, so their teacher would be one of these people. The second level of the teaching pyramid model entails the classroom setting, which is a physical setting of the child's daily life. The second component of the developmental niche involves child rearing practices. This further involves informal versus formal learning. Since the teaching pyramid model is used in school settings, it would fall into the formal learning category. Additionally, the four main practices of this theory would be the child rearing practices. Super and Harkness also discuss that the three components of the developmental niche interact with each other as a system, which would happen in the fourth level of the teaching pyramid model when the family, teaching staff, and support professionals work together. The family being involved in this level could also tie into the third component of the developmental niche, which is caregiver psychology. In social emotional learning, the goals focus on individuals, peers, classrooms, and schools. All of these factors, along with teacher relationships, would be in the first component of the developmental niche regarding the kinds of company a child keeps and their physical and social settings of daily life. Social emotional learning in this case would also be considered formal learning as it is conducted in a school setting. Homeschool partnerships are also an important dynamic of social emotional learning. Therefore, the parents or caregiver psychology and childcare practices of the second and third component of the developmental niche would become involved. Finally, the child rearing practices of the social emotional learning would be the strategies for social dynamics that were discussed. Regarding the best methods for addressing challenging behaviors, I believe there are certain advantages to each model. Although modern practices can be analyzed from the perspectives of developmental and learning theorists, along with cross-cultural developmental theories, there's just no way to know which model would work best across settings. This is the importance of studying development cross-culturally, as it allows us to recognize that each individual has unique needs, and therefore different strategies may work on different children. I do have a strong personal connection to this topic as I work in a behavioral school setting. Throughout my research, I realized that I use many of the strategies discussed in the theories every day. Some strategies discussed that I have found personally beneficial include taking the emphasis off of uniform achievement standards, modeling appropriate behavior, finding the reasons behind unwanted behavior, developing meaningful relationships with students, providing structure and routines, guiding children through social problems, and giving rewards or positive reinforcement. Since I use all of these strategies from different models, this is another reason why I feel one best model cannot be chosen. After completing my research, some questions for further research that I have are how these methods affect children later in life. This could be tested through follow-up studies. And also, these methods are typically done in a typical school setting. So my question is, at what point should a child be moved to an alternate educational setting due to their challenging behaviors? That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.